all of you have been in the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem, incubation ecosystem for last several years. In IT parlance, 200 plus years of experience resides in this panel. So also there are issues, opportunities, challenges. So it's very, very dynamic and fluid situation. 3 years ago, we never knew we'll be stuck to our homes for several months. Suddenly, that also threw lots of opportunities. And so this is one domain, it's always on its toes, addressing to the societal challenges and also providing solutions and opportunities. And as a society, the innovation and entrepreneurship are the prime movers of the economic movement. And in that, we are well positioned to address our roles. And so I'm going to ask each one of you for about 2-3 minutes just to dwell upon what's your vision for the country, primarily on the incubation ecosystem. And in case if you want to particularly share your insights on the innovation aspects as well. So it's going to be a kind of a freewheeling session. So let me start with Ms. Deepanwita. A good mentor of mine, and I've learned many, many things from her. When she was the president, I had an opportunity to serve under governing board. So systems, processes, governance, I always look upon her. Thank you, Dr. Ms. Deepanwita.
Thank you. This is a fantastic setup. And Suresh is right that when we started, it was a very small, maybe 30, 40 incubators, Jawahar would remember. And when I hear that there are more than 150 incubators present here, I feel so proud. You know, I had thought of talking of something else, but this is a painting, a famous painting from UN headquarters, Geneva. I thought this represents ISBA. If you look at the center, all these, I thought, let me just ask Bala and Prasad to do a different thing. So this is ISBA. And this, today, when I saw this, I felt I would talk about this. The next one. And this is a sculpture in the, again in Geneva. Earlier, ISBA logo was this. If you look at, you all know ISBA logo. So there are two hands that are guiding one frame, one person. This is basically co-incubation. We have moved completely in the last 20 years. Feeling very proud. Thank you.
Yeah, next I would request Dr. Anita Gupta. Two things that comes to my mind. Commitment, whenever she's needed, she's always there. During Kavach program, COVID mitigation program, she was the nodal officer of DST, and at least about 16 to 20 WhatsApp groups she was part of, and last messages will be around 11:30, 12, and the first messages will be around 6 in the morning. That's the kind of commitment, and a very informal person. If she's not in a meeting, you can walk into her office anytime. Over to you, Dr. Anita Gupta.
So, thank you, Suresh and Bala. So, it has been really wonderful to be back with the community of incubators after a long time. In fact, I must say, I have actually grown within DST the way incubators have grown. So, I can truly resonate the entire journey, the evolution. And it's so good to see the community growing bigger and bigger as we speak today, with 99,000 startups in the country and incubators grown to a huge, massive number of 900. And DST, we feel proud to lay the building blocks of incubation in the country. And the way others like AIM has adopted, MeitY, Startup Hub, and now Agri with Defense, IDEX. So actually how the wings have spread across the length and breadth of the country. So it's so heartening to note. And even the various dimensions we have added within the department. In fact, I shared a tweet yesterday about the Women Startup Program, thanks to Shloka, who shared with me. the President recognized this, the way the Women Startup Program has contributed in nurturing 3,000 odd entrepreneurs. So it's really good to see the fruits of our efforts and incubation being recognized. In my current portfolio of leading the climate change and clean energy vertical, I was in a panel on women in renewables, and 3 of the startups said they were the beneficiaries of Prayas grant. So I could see the way our initiatives have now percolated down, and as we speak, we are focusing on innovation of excellence and innovation of relevance. So is the case of how do we really build up incubators of excellence and incubators of relevance. And that's how I initiated the ITBI program, Inclusive TBI, just to really have footprints of incubation across the length and breadth of the country. And with how to keep incubators relevant with the changing times, I think each has to really work as a startup and mold itself with the dynamics of the markets. And really we cannot be focused on one domain. We have to create and position ourselves with the needs of the country. And now is the time we cannot focus on a generic incubator. You have to create a positioning of yourself, whether you are focusing on any area which the nation needs. And going forward, I think the good practices which ISBA will be really sharing with all the upcoming new incubators, which will go a long way in actually reducing the time for startups to really hit the market from ideation to be a market ready or investment ready. So these will be the things which incubators need to focus on. And I'm really happy that now currently, as per the data shows, there are for each 150 odd startups, 1 incubator. And going forward, these numbers really need to be made that for at least for 50 startups, there is 1 incubator. And I must say, ISBA has truly delivered its worth when we were hit by the COVID-19, and immediately we reached out to ISBA. How can they help us in implementation of the Kavach program? And I must compliment my colleague Praveen also, who was instrumental in rolling out this program in a very, you can say, the shortest span of time in the history of our department. And we talked to Poini and all, how we really conceptualized this program and brought out a sound SOPs to implement, and how ISBA with a collaborative program, collaboration of 8 or odd incubators, we could really implement this program. And this was a really game-changing time where ISBA really delivered its worth and really contributed to the, you can say, the cause of startup activity, where the opportunity and the challenges were really addressed on time. And I think whenever we had this program of like DST Startup Utsav or Kashmir Expo for Startups, we immediately reached out to ISBA to really help us out. So they are an extended arm of our NSTDB or DST in every way. And going forward, I think future holds lots of promise and potential. And there will be, this community will grow bigger and bigger. And incubation is already becoming an industry by itself. So thanks, government has been instrumental, but like it is now ISBA and the incubators to take the startup movement to a greater heights. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Dr. Subhra combines the efficiency of private sector with the effectiveness or stability of government. Would like to hear from you on especially on the biotechnologies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Suresh and Bala for inviting BIRAC here in this conference. And I think it's a big opportunity for all of us. Like we can see so many incubators. I mean, our main focus today is discussing on the incubators where the startups are getting nurtured. So definitely the incubators play a very major role. And as we just heard before that in India, almost we have around 900 plus incubators. The BIRAC contribution, maybe on the biotech sector particularly, is around 75 incubators across India, and we are going to expand it further. So what we feel is basically that even in this incubation network that has been created, I'm talking specifically for the biotech incubators, 75. I think out of 75, maybe 10 are well-matured incubators. Like we talk about IKP, we talk about CCAMP, we talk about venture centers. those are the very matured, and I think they provide a better ecosystem. So this is what is important, that an incubation center, it is not merely an incubation center. It creates an ecosystem, it provides an ecosystem. So how can you enhance that ecosystem? We discussed about the co-incubation, but I go beyond that one. I think Europe, if you see the business incubation, now the idea is to have open innovation. So open innovation in a sense that you create your ecosystem, it's much larger. So different incubators have the different expertise with respect to the facility, with respect to the knowledge, with respect to the skill sets. So let us share this. Can you share this? Recently, I was in touch with one of the virtual incubator. We just spoke about that one, created by some alumni in IIT Madras. I think everybody is aware of that. Is GDC Chris Gopalakrishnan and Deshpande Foundation. So they actually provide a virtual incubation and mentorship with respect to, say, like business development. So the startups, those who are creating a product, right? We have an idea that, okay, which market it can go. But maybe it's more easy, or if we get some support from our relevant people that can discuss about the market potential, the opportunity in the market. Whatever we are thinking it is a straightforward can go to that particular market, it may not be true. So in fact, this is what has happened. I mean, when they have actually interacted with 10 different or 20 different startups in their incubation program, and I was one of the, looking into one of the program, and I see that whatever their initial thought process with respect to the market potential, that how this product can be marketed, it has completely changed. And they're quite successful now with respect to this one. Now this is what, this startup is incubated in some other incubation center, but getting a support from an incubation center which is situated in a different place. I think this networking is very important, and where the ISBA playing a major role in doing that one, in creating this bigger network. So moving forward, as we see that, okay, we have different technologies are coming. We are talking about today the biomanufacturing in space. Even the satellites, like you have ISS, where lot of work with respect to the biology or the material science is ongoing. And we need to create some kind of incubator. These are the technology that we need to bring in, which are the newer technologies. Coming up like microfluidics, we talk about the point of care diagnostics. So we need to have microfluidics, 3D printing. So these are now getting created as a newer technology. As we go with the newer technology incubators to support this kind of startups, at the same time, we need to have more networking, which actually bring the open innovation into the country, and that can create even better success for these incubators and the startups that are growing into these incubators.
Thank you. And Dr. Ramanan, I've been an admirer of you. I've been watching all the developments in Atal Incubation Mission. Of course, few occasions where we had opportunity to work. I think you were quite particular about this governance, systems, maturity models. And so alongside the growth, how do we sustain that growth with the systems, processes? So those kind of perspectives would be great.
First of all, I want to thank both you, Bala, as well as Suresh, for having invited me here, because I think this is a wonderful event that needs to amplify itself multiple times. And with 900 incubators today that are there in the country, this is probably the tipping point, as I see, for all these incubators to even collaborate further and grow your membership from 150 to 900. But it's also a wonderful day today for me to meet so many familiar faces with whom I have been interacting over the last several years since I entered into the Atal Innovation Mission. But I do want to, your first question was, what should be your vision for the incubators, and what should be, how should we be relevant with the changing times that are there? Let me take you back to, what is our current situation in India, which many of us are familiar. But I think that sets the vision. We are having 1.4 million schools in our country. We have 10,500 engineering and related institutions. We have 39,000 colleges. We have 150 million students graduating from our schools over the next 5 to 10 years. We are one of the youngest countries of the world, and we are one of the fastest growing economies of the world. We have an obligation to ensure that our 1.4 billion people are carried forward into the next generation, into a generation of well-being, wellness, prosperity, and great health, and so on. And if we have this obligation, it is imperative. It is imperative that India adopts innovation and entrepreneurship as the way forward. We are among the global 46, or I don't know whether it is 44 today, Global Innovation Index, we are among the top 44. But from my point of view, we should be among the global top 10 within the next 10 years. That is what we should all aspire for. And if we want to aspire for that, we need to create a nation of job creators, which is what all of these initiatives are all about. How do you create this nation of job creators? Now, if you want to create thousands of startups, from my point of view, when you have 10,539,000 colleges, which is equivalent to almost 50,000 institutions, educational institutions which are creating such wonderful students, and Indian talent is known everywhere in the world. You know, we have been fantastic, and $250 billion IT/ITS industry has just sprung up because of our focus on education, right? And I've been part of that, I've been a beneficiary of that. But can we not aspire for at least 10% of these institutions to have world-class incubators? So that means we should have at least 5,000 incubators, not 900 incubators in our country. And you know, many people have often debated are incubators the way forward for a country which wants to become one of the biggest startup ecosystems of the world. And from my point of view, that is absolutely necessary because 70% of our country is in tier 2, tier 3 cities. 70% of our population and our students are from tier 2, tier 3 cities. And these incubators, which I see many of them represented here today, 70% of our incubators, these 900 incubators, are in tier 2, tier 3 cities. And if you are aspiring to be a world-class university, which everyone should aspire, you should have a world-class incubator which enables your young students, the talented students, the students who have an aptitude, who have the idea, you have the imagination, to be able to leverage. So from my point of view, a vision of ISBA is how do we create this ecosystem and amplify and expand it to be able to impinge upon everyone the need, the imperative need for setting up world-class incubators. And the second point is being relevant with changing times. And I think, Anita ji, who helped me so much when I first got into Atal Innovation Mission, and Mr. Jawahar, these are people who helped me in getting acquainted with, from a private sector to move into a government organization is not an easy thing. But they made it so helpful for me. I mean, she was there in almost every interaction that we had when we selected 102 incubators across the country. And that was, when we looked at that, I remember the day when I made first the presentation to Atal Innovation Mission, where they said, what are the goals that you're going to set up? And I said we should set up 10% of our universities as incubators. We should have incubators there. And they just pushed it down, saying, no, how can you even think about such a big number? And I remember in the very first round of selection, we identified 102 incubators. Of course, 75 of them got selected because we had to do due diligence and all of that. But I think the time is ripe today for us to establish world-class incubation. But world-class incubation means what? And I come to your point. Incubators cannot be just number game. They have to be world-class, and therefore they have to have a maturity model with which they should align themselves. We have developed a maturity model along with Startup Tamil Nadu today, and you have been part of that. And I think setting up a maturity model, just like the capability maturity model that propelled India into software expertise and excellence. CMM, level 5 organizations, all TCS, Infosys, all of them are there. How did they become so well recognized abroad? Because overseas organizations saw that you have a process of capability, maturity, excellence in your own organization. Can we not also similarly adopt an incubator maturity model of level 1 to level 5? Because each one of them are in different stages of evolution. And that is one part. And the second part is, I think is very important, is you have to have a governance framework for the startups from the day they get inducted into the incubator. That has been missing. Along with G20 and with Atal Innovation Mission and various other representations, we created a startup governance framework that evolves, leveraging digital technologies as they evolve, as they grow. So I think these are two things that I want to really focus on a little bit in the rest of the conversation if you get a chance. Because we are living in a world where technology has become affordable, accessible, available, and advanced. And with ChatGPT, generative AI, sensor technologies, all coming together so beautifully, this is the time for our young startups to address the opportunity in India. Otherwise, the rest of the world will address all the opportunities that India affords. And we cannot afford that. So I think with this, we should set our vision high, and we should ensure that we gather the energy which is already there in this room and multiply it several times across the nation.
Thank you. I think quantity along with quality, that's the
Absolutely.
essence. And
There's no compromise on that.
so Mr. Jawahar always had been a friend, philosopher, guide. I would even call TREC as the first incubation school in the country, probably the second incubator in the country. From refurbishing Nilgiri mountain railways, the coal-driven railways, to clean coal technologies. He has come a long way with the European Union projects and lots of information, I would say, incubation Wikipedia. So it will be great, Jawahar, if you could.
First of all, it's a deep honor to be with you all. The people who are working with dreams, the people who are working with youth power of this country, the people who are going to transform this country to newer heights. It's a deep honor to be with you. I sincerely thank ISBA. I sincerely thank both Suresh and Bala to keep the flame alive. To keep the flame alive. I think in this entire hall only, Anita Gupta knows that before ISBA, there was another organization called ISTAPA, which was Indian Science and Technology Entrepreneurs Park Association. And that died. But its flames did not die. Those flames created ISBA. And now I am seeing a lot of young faces. Jawahar was part of a small spark of that great flame, which was generated by so many nice people who are not with us now. Starting from Dr. Tyagarajan, S.B. Krishnan, Vikram Sarabhai even. We are part of an ocean called India. We are doing our duty and we are transforming India. So I want to be very brutally honest today because I cannot lie to these youngsters. First of all, Dr. Kalam said, thinking small is a crime. I think we are committing a lot of crimes here. We are thinking small. We are not growing to the relevant times. I would request my incubation fraternity, my brothers and sisters here, to think big. And it is possible to think big. If you look at a temple elephant, the temple elephant, they won't even tie the temple elephant. But the temple elephant will think that it is tied to a rope and it will not go away. So the chains are in our minds. We need to think big. I think I will use this occasion to be brutally honest. He always asks for magic sauce. Today I think the magic sauce has to be hot as well as sweet. Mr. Praveen Roy came to a board meeting and told us a beautiful thing. In fact, he summarized this very beautifully. He said, of course, video conferencing. So he said, we have given you so small a money, but then you have kept it alive and you have contributed so many things, and you are going on saying that Department of Science and Technology and this thing has contributed to this in spite of very less money you got from, I think Dr. Anita also did. Because we never felt we are outside Department of Science and Technology. It's not money. It's a motivation. We were all part of a team. I think with this few words, normally incubation managers works on dreams that ravishes us continuously. It's a sort of infection we get from our incubatees. They work on the dreams, they are being ravished by it, and we also work on those dreams. Today I would say, I'll say there are a lot of stories being spoken today. I'll just start with a small story, very small story. Once the Nile boar, the greatest atomic physicist, was approached by a young person with an article. He has written a paper on atomic model, and he gave it to Niels Bohr. This is about quantum mechanics, and he asked Niels Bohr to read it. And once after Niels Bohr has read it, he asked Niels Bohr, do you think it is crazy? Do you think this paper is crazy? And Niels Bohr said, no, I think this paper is not crazy enough to be true. I think we are not crazy enough. And if you have told me, see, Suresh told me that, I'm sorry to say this, I want to be modest. Don't take me for being bragging about this. Today, Suresh told me we got government, we got a lot of government support. I am telling you, we can help governments. We need government support. As incubation managers today, we can help government in taking up their schemes globally. We don't have to depend on government anymore. We are in a different world today. For example, I was with Mr. Mittal, who was not here, in 20 years back in a German conference. Myself, Mittal, and Chandramohan were sitting. The Dortmund incubation manager, they were sitting there. The minister for incubation, he was sitting in the corner. The Dortmund incubation manager has started, he called the minister and said, Minister, please note it down. And incubators need that. And I told Mittal, I was a young fellow, sir, see how he is ordering this. Mr. Mittal said, Jawahar never practices, your head will not be there if you go back. So I think TREC survived because we got little support from government. We got a lot of not monetary support, but then very little money support. Since we got very little money support, we work with international agencies, World Bank, European Union. We are now a 5th European Union project now, and UN organizations. So that has kept us alive for 40 years, internationally competitive. Today, if you have told me that TREC was 2 years back, not 2 years back, 4 years back, if you have told TREC would be doing a turnover of 20, 30 crores, I would have believed. If you have said TREC would have will do a turnover of 50 crores in 23, 24, I would not have believed. Today we are doing a turnover of 500 crores. It is because of Green Climate Fund, and we are partnering with SIDBI, and we are looking at 1,000 crores. We will be the first unicorn incubator, not the unicorn startup in the country in 1.5 years from now. That is the scope we have. It is, Koini told me that, is it inclusive of the turnover of the incubator? No, it is the turnover of the incubator alone. That's the kind of, we are looking at, we may fail on a pathway, but we are pursuing that kind of pathway. Because when I see young faces here, I see myself 25 years, 30 years back. You do not know what the future is. The future is all of them not your startups, but you can become a unicorn incubator very shortly if you want to be. That's the kind of scope that is available in this world today. India is in the world. We cannot become very closed and think that and there's something about satellite that has been discussed. My team is working on a constellation of satellites for other developing countries with Green Climate Fund. And we are talking to some of the scientists in ISRO. We are talking to some Belgian colleagues. And we want to create space common facilities for incubatees. So today we are not, humankind has a different kind of vision. We are in a scale-up world. We have already taken off. I think that's a scope that's available for incubators today, and I think that's the excellence we'll have to pursue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think it's a grand vision. So this round is going to be a little quicker, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. Ms. Deepanwita, coming back to you again. You've been very compassionate and grooming your talent. And so with the changing times, what is the importance of this team? How the leaders of incubation movement should aspire to build a strong team? one-liner and
You know, if you're talking of a team, they have to be able to understand what the startups want. So I would want each incubator manager to be entrepreneurial enough. If you have your own startup, it's the best. If you're a founder, then you know the pains of a startup. Or otherwise, you have to be entrepreneurial enough to be able to understand and build the ecosystem. Because incubators build fragile, developing systems. You are growing very fragile systems. Whether it's a startup is very fragile when it comes for incubation. Later on, they don't need us. And at that point, if your environment is not suitable, what I want all incubator managers to be able to transfer energy, because that's how incubation happens. Whether it is a cell or a bacteria or an egg or a startup, transfer of energy is a very, very important thing. So incubator managers have to really exude and transfer energy in a manner that your entire ecosystem is charged.
thank you. Dr. Anita Gupta, with your new division, C3 division, if you could relate to the opportunities that are unfolding and where incubators could look upon aligning their work with your new initiative.
So this is a very, you can say, hot topic in terms of how each country are committed to their climate action goals, and clean energy plays a very dominant role, and it actually ranges, the landscape is really huge, cutting across solar energy. And now since India's dependency on fossil fuels in terms of energy generation is more, 70% of energy is generated to fossil fuels. So we have set, our PM has given Panchamrit, 5-pointer goals for India, where we have to really have 50% of energy generation through renewables and non-fossil fuels. So our focus, we are actually, is towards that only. How do we enable our Indian, you can say, institution, researcher community to rise to the occasion and really take up research and enhance. We from the department are giving fundings for not only for R&D but for also for the demonstration side. So how do we really enhance the technology readiness level of various innovations and research activities which are at lab level to come to pre-commercial level. So we are actually engaging a lot with industries also, all PSUs, NTPCs, BHELs, Indian Oil, ONGC are a part of our network. Apart from that, private industry is also coming on board because our PMS has set a big ambitious target of India being an export of hydrogen. So hydrogen is the next big thing as in the form of clean fuel. We are in the process of setting Hydrogen Valley innovation clusters. 6 RFPs have been shortlisted, and this will be a collaboration where we could see the role of startups in the entire value chain, because right from the production to you can say utilization, storage, transportation, so it will be end-to-end thing where startup will have a key role. And just to say, startups also delivered in the Chandrayaan-3
Right.
as a major mission.
Right.
So in all the clean energy mission, startups will have a clear role in driving and upping the innovation value chain. I am working out, I had one round of discussion with incubators what we could do in terms of propelling the startup in the clean tech domain. We are also part of one of the multilateral innovation platform mission innovation to drive R&D and innovation in this domain, and one of the key platform is Accelerate. Accelerate is for scaling up the innovations, and as a part of it, dedicated international clean energy incubation has been set up with Social Alpha in Bangalore. So we would see now is the time really to how do we shift from a sector agnostic to sector specific, and energy will occupy a very special place in this. So I'm just in talks working out how do we really enable our startup community, and fortunately our secretary who has recently joined is also on the same page, and we'll see new initiatives coming up very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Subhra, quickly, how do we align the BIRAC's vision for the country, especially in the self-reliance movement and the incubator's vision, if you could draw some connections?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the BIRAC vision, what was initiated in 2012, and coming into the self-reliant, I think we have seen a fantastic success during the COVID period. So the Mission COVID Suraksha program that was implemented by DBT through BIRAC, so the vaccines, what has been produced, the diagnostics that has been produced in India, and the support that has been given through this, this program by Government of India. I mean, it was enormous, and we have seen that how much we became self-reliant. We didn't, initially we were thinking that during COVID, like what we were going to do, because we do not have anything to circumvent that kind of situation. We have never faced this. But slowly what we showed that we can do it by ourselves. So everything has been done, what has been done in India. So I think that's the greatest success, I would say, with respect to the BIRAC vision, which has been done. And we would like to do more. So now coming in for the future, we need to be prepared for any future pandemics, that preparedness that we are doing. As we all know, like we are talking about the bioincubators, how they should move to the next level. And when we talk to all the incubators or the startups, they do talk that, okay, they need to have a platform for scale up.
Right.
Because any biological systems or drugs or anything product that you produce, it needs to do a validation. So it's like a clinical validation. So that, and clinical validation does not mean that always you will have it successful. But you need to spend a lot of money to produce the material to do the clinical validation. Right? Now, can we prepare some of the bioincubators so that they can prepare those, the materials? The startups by themselves, don't need to create these facilities. Hence, the Department of Biotechnology and BIRAC is coming up with respect to, I think already one proposal, request for proposal has been floated, that to come up with the biofoundries where we can manufacture in a higher scale, like the pilot scale, different products, not only therapeutics. We have many different domains that is coming up, like we need to have food security because for that there are the biological way that we can produce food, smart proteins. There are multiple things, the newer technologies, newer therapies that is coming up. So for all those things, we need to have kind of a centralized facilities where the companies can come and then do some kind of validation of their the product, and then finally take it for the commercialization. So that's how we would like to bring these things to become more self-reliant.
Thank you. Dr. Ramanan, quickly, this agility, frugality, or the corporate mantras, how do you connect them with the incubators with the changing times?
So that's a very important point. Incubators, if you're a world-class incubator, you have to be very agile. Agile in being able to enable every startup to overcome the valleys of death, as they call. And not only that, but to become investable by others. So that agility comes only with, from my point of view, there are 5 very important things that the incubators have to do beyond identifying and inspiring talent from the community in which they are operating. They have to ensure that they are providing them collaborative support. And this is a great example. And I like the pointer that Deepanwita had mentioned in the very first slide. Collaboration is key. Collaboration with various partnerships that would enable the startup to succeed and overcome its problems that are there in the life cycle. So for example, you have to provide funding support. And the incubator has to play a very important role in identifying sources of funding, whether it be from the government or from the private sector or from the venture capital, and make them aware. They have a very important marketing and sales process to be integrated within that incubator to be able to outreach and tell everybody that this is what we are doing and we are helping build world-class startups, which can align itself with your need, whether it is in the state or whether it is social or whether it is commercial. The second is, you need to provide very strong mentoring support. Now, I know that many incubators have some sort of semblance of mentors. But if you see world-class incubators like Y Combinator or Tech Edge and so on in the US, they have a 10:1 mentoring ratio. 10 mentors for one startup. Now, why do they do that? Because if a startup doesn't succeed in the financial part or in the marketing part and the communication part and the HR part and so on and so forth, it's not going to succeed later on. It's not going to speedily become. So you need very strong mentoring support. And the third is, you need a very strong partnership strategy. Partnership with local industry or with local academia, and leveraging all the resources of the academia where many of our incubators are located. They are not leveraging enough the capabilities, the resources, the facilities that university or that ecosystem is providing. And finally, you need to build customers, get customers into seeing what is happening here. Without that, startups are operating in a vacuum of developing a product and then seeking a customer. How do you enable this right from day one, right? So all of these 5 important points are very important to be addressed. And the incubator should always realize that its primary role is to make that startup succeed, the startup which is there. And if they want to do all of this, then what Jawahar said is very important. How do you become self-sustainable? When the grant runs out, are you going to close shop? Or are you going to dilute your attention to that startup? That cannot happen. So if you want to do that, you have to, that particular, whatever is the internal financial arm, should look at how am I going to not just manage the finances that have been given to me, but how I'm going to make sure that there are sustainable financing for me to last for the next 15 years to support it. So I think these are very important points when an incubator is positioning itself in the current.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Jawahar, no questions to you, but one closing comment from, at least summarize all this.
Thank you. In fact, I do not want to take much of your time, but then I think we need to think differently. We cannot do reinventing the wheel all the time. And as leaders who are promoting innovators and entrepreneurs, I think we need to lead the show by being ourselves innovators and ourselves being entrepreneurs. And of course, government has certain constraints in terms of they are not allowed to be very innovative. They'll have to maintain some sort of stability. So we need to, the incubators have to bring in innovation and entrepreneurship activities into the government. And very important, very, very important, finally I'll close here, is to engage ourselves globally, because our entrepreneurs are engaging globally and competing globally. So therefore, it is very, very important for the incubation managers to engage globally. But I think of late this trend is towards converging on this huge market called India, and be happy with it. But please remember that for the sake of the entrepreneurs, we need to think global at every footstep. Thank you very much.
Yeah. A very powerful panel, as I mentioned in the beginning. I think I have to watch the video at least twice to internalize whatever has been spoken, quite content heavy. And thank you for being wonderful panelists and setting the context for the whole conference. You are all opening batsmen for the next two-day match. Thank you. And thank you all. We are skipping the Q&A. Please take it offline.